All right, hi friends, welcome. Thanks for joining me on another paint tutorial. Today we are going to be doing the snowman in the dark. Trying to set the example here in the picture so we can have that on hand. I got all my supplies prepped. I did put my paint in the paint palette already. I will be using a good amount of black, white, red, and green to start with. And then I have my orange and my brown for later that I may end up just, squirting a little in, but I didn't want it to dry up in the meantime. So to start, we are doing our large flat. I also have all of these brushes on board all the time because I don't know how I want to tackle different things that I'm working on in the painting. So I always have a smaller flat brush, a medium flat brush, and a rounded brush for detail. So I always have those on hand. Let's start with prepping our paintbrush, dipping it in the water and pat drying it. It just kind of helps the paint not stick to the brushes. First layer will be the black. So let's go ahead and apply the black to our canvas or the board, depending on which one you have. I'll do smaller strokes horizontally for now until I get a good amount of paint on, and then I'll drag it all the way across, left to right. I like to take a lot on my brush and then just bring it to the canvas and kind of work it in. Make sure there's no white spots or part of the canvas showing. I had some cool Christmas music playing, but it seems like the past couple times I've had a radio on, I have been shut down, my video that is, due to copywriting issues for playing the song without asking for permission to use it in my video. So maybe you can hum a little Christmas tune in your head, or no Christmas tune. You know me, I'm easy. All right. So I take the stroke after the smaller strokes. I take the longer strokes just to kind of give it a nice finish, and you won't see any more of those smaller strokes. If you prefer to have that look as well, feel free, you can start Xing it on as well. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush. I'm done with this. I like to give it a good rinse. Make sure all the paint's out of it. All right, I'm gonna take the hairdryer, make sure my paint is securely off to the side so we don't blow dry that, and we'll blow dry round one. All right, mine dries a little quicker. I am using a board back for my canvas. It looks very similar to a canvas though. Also, after it dries, you're obviously going to get a different look, a different finish. So just make sure that you got all the edges that you want painted in and dried. So I have a little bit of wet paint going on the outside, just some overflow. I'm just gonna kind of dry that up real quick. Do the same to the other side here. We're going to be working with white next. And I'm going to show you a new paint technique. With our large flat brush, as you can tell, I have a fluffy snowman. It's not just your typical rounded circle, similar to the hat. It's going to be lighter, more airy. It's just going to give a cool little value to the painting. So I'm excited to show you that. With your black canvas, you have the option to use chalk or not to kind of draw your subject on the board to see how you would like it to look. I am going to be a visionary on this one, partly because I don't have my chalk and I don't want to step away and find it. So with your brush, I kind of dabbed it. You can flick it, just kind of get the bristles fluffy. I don't know if you can see that. And then I'm just going to barely stick the tip of the brush in to grab a little white paint. And then from here, I'm just going to kind of dab. I'm not going to kind of, I am going to dab. And we're just going to go in a circle. I'm just going to make his head. There, that looks good to me. And now I'm going to make the body. I like to have an outline just to kind of give my vision a little taste of what it's going to look like. I think that works. So from here, we just now fill in the snowman. If you don't want to do the top of the head, because we are going to be doing a hat, you don't have to. I will probably stop when I get to the head. I might do a little bit of the head, and we are going to create the hat. Now you may or may not notice with dabbing, if your canvas is not dry, that black may be pulling through, which is making gray. If that is the case, stop what you're doing and dry a little more. As this black does get moist again with the paint, we do need to be careful on how often we blot or dab the brush, because we are potentially going to pick up that black paint regardless, because that is the bottom color. So I felt like it started to go gray there, so you just have to stop patting and move on. You know, you can always check your brush too to see if is it really predominantly gray on your brush like your canvas shows. If it's not, keep dipping. All right. I just did the whole head. Why not? We're on it, right? So now you kind of have this iridescent look about your snowman, which I like it. I find it to be pretty cool. And the fact that your snowman's fluffy. All right, I'm going to rinse my brush off again and dry. Okay, that's not 100% completely dry, but it's dry enough to work on the Santa hat that he'll be wearing. So for this, we are going to be using white and a smidge of brown. We want it to be like an off-white. Some of my kids have even said it looks reddish, but it is the color brown that is mixed in. So I'm actually going to, if I pour this, it's going to be so much. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and pour it because I'm going to need it for my sticks anyway. So I've got a little brown on the edge of my paintbrush there. I'm going to mix a little brown and white here. It's just too much. You need such a faint amount of brown for this because you don't want it to look like light brown on the hat. Yeah, see, that's still a little too brown, so I'll probably add a little more white in there. Just ever so faint. That's still too brown. So make sure you use just a little bit of brown. All right, I think that's good. It's just a kiss of brown in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the fluff on the hat right now. So I'm gonna pick up, you know what, I'm gonna switch over to my medium flat. So I'll get that wet, prime that up a little bit. And then I'm gonna take the brown and just kind of come in here. So I'm going to make it right across this area, right across the top. So I'm going to curve in a little cotton fluff here. And I'm going to curve another one in here, and maybe just one more right there. And I'm going to probably have to do a couple coats of this off-white just so it can pop over everything. Okay, I'm going to stop it right about here, kind of abruptly with a sharp drop off in my cotton ball because the Santa hat's going to come around over there and that'll be red. So it's kind of what I did there. I'll curve it a little bit to match my painting. Perfect. Now from here, I'm going to rinse my brush. I think I'm going to take my red here and just sort of outline how I want to envision this here. Probably go down like that. Curve it a little bit, but there we go. And then we're going to come in. I'm just going to draw the outline here. I want to come inward and stop my Santa hat right at the brim of the fuzz ball, the little cotton ball of his hat. So now all this will be red. I just needed to get my vision in there. My white seems pretty dry around the edge, so I'm going to go ahead and start taking and painting in my hat. On top of this black here, we are going to need, if you haven't noticed already, we're going to need a couple coats for sure. So take your time with it. It's not going to develop overnight. And this is the tedious part. We're going to end up doing that with our orange and our green as well. Feel free to please utilize and turn your canvas around if you need to. That's why I think art easels don't work too well with me. Although I do pick up my paintings and move them around. I just prefer a good old-fashioned table half the time. Now you've got all these different size brushes, so please feel free to utilize the size you need. And I'm picking up my white here, so just make sure you get a liberal amount of paint on your brush. Do one coat, dry it up. Don't try to sit there and put a bunch of strokes on this right now because the paint will lift, even when it's dry. These are the little things you start to learn, because if you're anything like me, kind of OCD, it's nice to paint because you have to break away from that and just kind of allow it to do its thing, and work with it. So I'm going to dry it and work with it. So for the most part, that is pretty good. There's a few little spots on my red and white hat here, off-white hat, that need to dry. So I'm going to take the time to put another coat on my snowman so he is a little more vibrant and bright. The good part about this is you can always, if you accidentally get paint on your red or your off-white, it's just a quick little detail issue you can fix later. I think I need a little more white. I am all out here. There we go. If you're not in a hurry and you don't want to hair dry anything, this is something that's always fun to do, because sometimes I don't like using hair dryers, and I love taking all day to paint one painting. I sit and work for a little bit, I let it dry. It teaches me such patience, I'll tell you that. I think I have become a more patient person painting that way. I'm going to put my lid on my brown here before that dries out. All right, now I'm gonna get back to work on my red while this dries. I'm gonna let it air dry. I noticed that I didn't really like what was happening with my hat over here, so I think I'm gonna make it look bigger. That's okay. I was trying to not get so close to his eye and nose, but if every one that I've done of this, I've gotten really close to the eye and the nose. I think that's just the way it is. If you think about it, when you put your beanie on, doesn't it rest right above your eyebrow? So I didn't feel as bad. I'm trying not to brush to make pink right there on the white. So I was dabbing it. Here we go. That's a little better. Can't wait to have live paint classes again. It'll be so nice to paint and chit chat with friends. So as each coat goes on, do pick up a good amount of paint onto your brush, and you're just going to glide that in. It's going to be thick, and you're only going to do a few strokes, but that's how you want to layer this paint on. Now, you may have some really good acrylic paints that are naturally thick. You may not even need to do what I'm doing. I've worked with some phenomenal acrylic paints that I really like. And I just like I need to fix that a little more. I'm going to throw a hairdryer back on. Alright, I'm going to switch back to my brown and white mixture. I think I'm going to take the rest of my white that I poured into my canvas, and I'm actually going to just scoop some brown into it. I know I'm going to need a lot of the mix for my last ball here, and then to refill in my other little friends. Well, they're not friends, but my other little, I'm trying to think of it, the fluff. Oops, that might have been too much white. Let's stir it in. I don't think it would be. So far, perfect. Excuse me. Okay, so I just used the end of my brush to do all that mixing. I am going to place my fluff ball down here. I'm not going to make a very big one because I just feel like I'm losing some face. I'm just very, very carefully going over my last lines. I have a liberal amount of paint on this too, partially because we have that black background that's just really it's vibrantly showing through all the colors. All right, I'm liking the way this is turning out. I hope you are getting the same results. Don't be too critical on yourself, and don't think too much into that, into painting your fluff balls. I know perfection gets the best of me sometimes. We may need to do a third layer as well. So what we'll do is we'll do hopefully our last layer of red here, so we can do our final layer if needed on the fluff. I really think that it would just be fine detailing for our third layer, at least for my fluff. I'm putting a lot of paint on to do some cover up. A lot of paint, less strokes. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush. I'll be using the same size brush. I'm going to move to painting the cap again. I like to play with what different things my brush can do. I always have this habit of pinching the bristles so they're nice and firm and flat together. And I love being able to use that technique of the brush, just a nice sharp flat edge to paint with. I'm being a little more careful with this third one because I did all this detail work on the fluff ball. I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to have to keep doing it over and over. That's not the goal. But sometimes, like I just did, it's going to happen. Not a big deal. That's what all the final touch-ups. I know when I paint, I love just sitting there kind of critiquing it for the next few minutes after it's done. Really get all those details worked out. I think that's how the professional look comes about the painting too. It's just putting your time and your energy into wanting to make it your best painting. And sometimes it's fun just to experience painting, get a little messy with it. Abstracts are fun for me for that. Following no rules and no guidelines. Now to cover up some of this white. All right. I'm gonna wash that up, or no, I'm gonna wash this out and dry it up is what I meant to say. Just put a little heat to it. All right, I'm gonna let the rest of that air dry and I'm gonna move on. I think to the scarf, so I'm gonna use my medium flat brush again. I'm just gonna go ahead and dip right into the green because my brush is primed already. I'm gonna make one solid swoop at the bottom of his neck, all the way around. Then I'm gonna kind of puff it outward and then bring it all the way back up. I don't try to think too much about where my hand's going as long as it's going in that general direction of the scarf, and then I'll tweak whatever I didn't like as I go along here. The scarf will need a couple layers as well. If we want, we can even go ahead and add the scarf tails. I'm going to go one more swoop up here, quick. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of pretend that I got my... I'm going to go sideways on this scarf today and see. Give me something kind of new. I brought it right up in there, so now I'm just going to paint it all down in there. And then you can kind of think about your scarf. You can think about, do you want stripes or polka dots? What is on your scarf? zigzags. All right, then I got little tailings, little scarf tails. I'm gonna rinse that out. I think I'm gonna let that air dry. I'm gonna move on to my small flat brush, prime it, and then I'm gonna dip into the brown and I'm going to draw his hand. Excuse me. I'm gonna start right below the scarf. I'm gonna do like a snap twig for fingers. I'm just dipping the tip of my brush in for the brown, just to do the outline. I seem to have a liberal amount of paint on there, but you don't need the liberal amount of paint. I'm going to go ahead and use it to my advantage though right now and just kind of fill it all in with a lot of paint. And that way I don't have to come back and do a second coat or a third coat. It just seems to be filling in nicely. I'm not sure how this hand is turning out. I will come in and fine tune it later after I get all the paint inside of it. Okay, well, we'll see how that works. Got to be proportionate. His arm's got to be at least a little thicker. Oh, that one turned out funny, but that's okay. All right, I'm going to move on to black for coal of the eyes. Just dipped my small flat brush into the black. And I'm not going to be making a perfect circle, so I'm just going to kind of make this rigid oval for the eye. Maybe go a little bold. A little bigger, I mean. And then I'm just going to come down and do the coal on for his buttons. These are my favorite kind of ovals and circles to do because imperfection is what we're seeking for lumps of coal. All right. I don't want to get too much more wet on my canvas, so I'm going to come back around here and probably do another coat of red with my medium. And I'm going to be using, once again, another liberal amount of red. So I did get a little too much red onto my white here, so I'm taking the damp paper towel that's not as colorful, and I'm just going to come in and ever so carefully wipe it off. Just some little tricks. Oh yeah, this last coat is going to look nice. Be careful of your wet paint. You do have the option to dry it if you'd like. All right. I'm satisfied with my care on that. I'll come back in with a little bit of that off-white and touch up my areas real quick and do another coat on the little ball here. Okay, coming in up here. Alright. Satisfied as my care there. I'm going to move on to another coat of green onto my scarf. Oh, looks like I didn't mind my wet paint, so I'll come back in and blot that up a little later. Get my green back here. Get a nice solid green right over the snowman. Nice bold pop of color. Alright. Let's go ahead and let that dry, and I'm going to do the orange nose. about a quarter size. I'm going to use my medium-sized brush here. Be careful of the wet paint. I just did it again. Okay, I'm going to make the nose go this way. And ouch. And I really love doing the nose too because it's a carrot and it's not perfect. By all means, if you'd like a perfect triangle, go for it. But I love the authenticness that making a crooked carrot brings to the snowman. Gonna kind of gloop it on the tip so I don't have to come back to do too many layers besides possibly one more. I only do this in my small areas. That I know need a little more painted than others. Just go ahead and put a liberal amount in over here as well. I think his nose is really big, but that's okay. There we go. Made it a little longer. And then for fun, just because I can't wait to see this, I need to put in the smiley face, the coal, the pieces of coal. So I'm going to go and make that one long. One, two. You can put as many on as you'd like. I think I'm going to see what 4 looks like here. Well, I'm going to go with 4 because I put the piece of coal a little too high so he could smile. So I'll leave that for now. That will work. All right, I'm going to put a little hair dryer on this. Okay, I think that's dry enough. I'm going to come in with my small flat. I need to grab some more white because I'm going to do details onto this scarf now. This one's like a little dime size amount of white paint. I just dipped the tip in. That might have been a little too much, but let's check it out. So I'm going to start with a straight line going up. And then I think I'm going to go zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag. Dip again into another one. And then I'm going to flip my paintbrush over and dip it in. 1, 2, 3. Maybe do one more dip on that one. Flip it back around. Now just be aware that your paintbrush has a wet tip. zig, zag, zig, zag. Now we gotta be careful, we got the scarf tailings coming up again, so tails, not tailing. My vocabulary sometimes even makes me chuckle. Okay, we got that one. And then here we have the outline of the scarf. So I think I'm going to do one more line on the other side of the scarf here before it reaches the tails. And then I'll come off. Just some little details there. Maybe I have enough room even to do another little line above and then add my dots on this one. That'll be a half a dot. And then disappears into no dots. All right. Now for this one, I want it to come down the scarf. So I have to kind of see where, I'm going to put my lines in first so I know where I stand. I need to figure out which one's more dominant too. I think this one will be more dominant. Let's see, I have the ball of that one, and then we go dominant again down here. And then we'll do it again here, and then here. And so this side will be here, here, okay. I hope everyone got to see that and my head wasn't too far in the way. So I just needed to get the shape of my tails. So from here I can kind of just add, let's just stick with dots. So we'll go dot, dot up here. We'll make that one zigzag, so we'll go dot, dot, dot here, and dot, dot, dot there. Zigzags, dots, zigzags, dots. All right. Wipe that off and then move on to all right. Ooh, I like it. Looks good. Okay, so let's go on to, I'm gonna fill in a little spot I see up here real quick. Oh, go nice and easy. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to fill in another little spot. I made my ball a little bigger up here, so I'm just going to fill that in. I know you probably can't tell from where you're sitting, but it was bugging me, so I did it. And I would hope you would do the same with yours too, because we definitely want to make sure that we're doing our best work. I feel like I'm getting nowhere with this smaller brush, but I do need it for the arm. Switch back over to my medium. Just gonna get a good scoop of orange in here. Okay. Boy, he's got a big nose. Okay, now I'm going to come back in with my small detail brush and kind of fix up my arm and also do another coat of black onto my coal. I like the way that a lot of paint filled in on that hand really worked well. Putting in a lot of paint. Now I'm just doing minor touch-ups. Adding sharp, twiggy fingertips here. Not too shabby. Maybe I'll come in with a little white and blot out the black marks. Blend nicely. Do my coat of black on the coal here. We'll come back in, we'll let these air dry, we'll come back in and put some detail in every single piece of coal that we painted here. Just finalize and polish up the look of the snowman here. All right. Now you can, if you like your scarf as is, I say leave it. The only reason I outlined this scarf in black is because I wanted the tails of the scarf to show. So it's really up to you if you would like to do that. I'm going to take a little black and fill in a little more where I think that should be. So yeah, if you want to, you can do it two ways. You can take your detail brush and very lightly and carefully outline it that way. Or if you have a black paint pen, you can just highlight it. And I think that's what I'm going to do at the end so I can show you guys. Just from here, I'm seeing little different colors that I don't like on my snowman, so I'm just popping white over top of it. Please feel free to finish up whatever you're working on. And then we'll get into the snowflakes. So with the snowflakes, I'm going to use my small flat brush. I'm actually going to turn my painting upside down so I can get the snowflakes that are at the top. So I'm going to literally draw a little star, and then with what's left on my paintbrush, I'm going to just flare out. I need a little more paint. I do. So just kind of flare out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's almost like if you were drawing an arrow, like a bow and arrow. You're drawing the arrow, and at the tip of the arrow, you're adding the feathers, right? Well, at the tip of this snowflake, we're adding our crystals. And so that is how that snowflake is born. Pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. And you can play with the sizes too. Like I made one longer line down the center there. So maybe make each line for your next one the same length. So let's go. Let's make it like he's going to touch this one. I'm going to start with an X. And you have different ways to make this. You can do the X with a line in the center, or you can go down the center again. I think I'm going to leave this one as is with an X and a line down the center, and then I'm going to add my little flare to my snowflake. I think I may want to put that extra line though, now that I'm seeing how much space is created with not having a lot of lines. So check it out, see what you think. See, that snowflake's just a little wider there. I think I'm going to add that. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, so it'll be 4 lines total. I think it just looks pretty, like all filled in. And I am going to make it a little taller because I feel like I'm a little cramped for adding lots of flare. I'm going to come down here. Let's see, I see green dots and red dots on my black, so I'm going to pause for a second and kind of cover those up. Perfect. Okay, wash that up. I think I'm going to make a couple more snowflakes. Here we go. One more snowflake, and then we're going to add snowflake dots and the accents to our coal. Okay. How's that looking? So now I'm going to take the end of my brush and then I'm just going to add smaller, different snowflakes. Simple, easy, but it makes it look like it's really snowing outside too. Perfect. Wipe the end of my brush off. Wash the tip of my brush off. How's that orange doing? Let's throw a hairdryer on real quick. I'm going to put one more coat of orange here. Probably could use more, but just over the black part. I'm really going to lay it on thick over here. I think the advantage of the thick acrylic paints for this is awesome if you got them. All right, wash that up. Careful you don't drip on your painting. All right, now I'm going to dip small flat. I'm going to dip it into my white, just barely the tip. And I'm going to do just a little swoosh on each coal. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be long. But you get some more detail in the eyes and just all over the coal. I know I did tassels on my painting, and I've done this painting probably 3 or 4 other times for different classes, and I'm actually going to probably just leave my scarf alone because I kind of like that. If you'd like to continue, you may add, at this point, you know, work with the colors you've got, but I took black and I made little tassels coming down off my arms of my scarf, my 2 ends. And then I just went around, and you can do that with your round, you can do it with your small flat, you might get a better, you just have to be careful because that flat has no curve, and if you're trying to get a curve in there, sometimes that may work to your disadvantage. I would come in and I'd find your little humps around here too, and just kind of come down. Well, you know what, let's just go ahead and do that real quick. Let's do that. So take your small flat brush. Go ahead. Let's outline each end of the scarf first. So from here, I've got a loop coming down and around, and then I've got a smaller loop and down. Did you hear me whisper? I had to concentrate. Okay, from here I'm going to take my smaller loop because that's more dominant, and then I'm coming through and drawing the line to separate the two. I'm going to outline the bottom of the scarf here. Well, that's something I can fix later. My brush split during the middle of the stroke, and now I've got 2 black lines on my scarf, but it's nothing I can't fix. So that's how you outline the 2 ends, and then I'm just kind of going over and just finalizing the top and the bottom of the scarf here. It does give it a nice pop if you outline it. I will give it that much. And it just depends on how thick you want your lines to be too. Now to come in and detail it if you want more fine lines too. I'm going to switch to my round brush. I haven't even used that brush yet. And I'm going to come in with the green because I don't like this black line, which is way too thick I made up here. So I'm just going to come right over it and add a little separation in my scarf. So, and you guys I'm sure are smart enough to probably understand that and probably do it. So I won't go into too much detail, but that's the scarf part. For the most part, our painting is done. Just come in and do details now. There's nothing on the snowman's hand. If you need to sharpen that up, I kind of wanted to sharpen a little white up here because I put a little black, so I wanted to put a little more fluff around his neck. And that's it. This, I think, completes our snowman painting, friends. I hope you enjoyed the painting video, and I hope you had a good time and learned something, and I will see you on the next video. If you do have any questions, comments, feel free to message me at harborkidscanvas@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to my page if you'd like. Donations are always gladly accepted, during this time as I push these classes out for you. My small business really doesn't make too terribly much money, but I'm so happy to provide this for you. Happy holidays, guys. Thank you so much for painting with me, and we'll talk to you real soon.